Welcome to Creators Corner, a chance for us to spotlight creators, their decks, and other divination tools. And today, oh my God, I'm so excited. We have artist and deck creator Krystal Banner. Now, Krystal is passionate about using color and culture to create the most interesting products that are approachable, accessible, and relatable. And after spending over 10 years, that's right, 10 years as a, guess what, an engineer and a consultant. Well, what happened next? She decided to follow her passion for art, and wow, are we glad that she did that. Krystal founded a creative hub called Kaleidadope in 2017 and has since been the author and illustrator of a range of greeting cards and several amazing oracle and tarot decks, including the coolest, the soundtrack oracle and love on the record oracle, which we're going to talk about. Anyway, welcome, Krystal.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Me too. I was like geeking out on all your oracle decks.
Because I feel like we're both fans of each other. So that's always fun to be like, oh yeah, I'm a fan of her. There's like, she's a fan of you. I'm like, oh, perfect.
Yeah. Yes. We're mutual fangirls. Oh my God. Okay. So here's what I want to know. We're going to get into the whole engineering thing in a bit, but how did you get into divination? Because your stuff is divination. That's what you and I both do. So how did you get into it? Tell me the story.
So I was doing my thing as an engineer, and I felt like I'm good at this and I make good money, but my heart's calling me towards something else. I've always been passionate about art, but I was like, my heart's calling me towards something. And since I'm an artist, I was always drawn to art, specifically in tarot decks. So at the time, I'm like, the art looks cool. I don't know much more, but the art looks cool. Well, as I went through these shifts, I felt like my world was falling apart. So a relationship ended that I thought was going to be it. My job, I'm like, I don't know if this is, so it felt like I don't know what's going on. And I remember my sister had some tarot cards and she was like, do you want me to give you a reading? I'm like, no, thank you. And that had me thinking like, there's something that it's calling. It's like, it was calling me. And I was like, I feel like I need to create a deck. And the logic, I'm an engineer. So the logic side of my brain is like, we don't have time for that. We're traveling the world. We're being an engineer. We're doing all these things. No, but it wouldn't collect. Like I couldn't let it go. I had to.
Yeah.
And so as I started illustrating this tarot deck, I started healing. Like I realized the tarot really illustrates the human experience. And I felt less like, oh my God, my life is falling apart, and more like, this is a cycle. This is like something's happening here. And I've always used art to express my emotions and, happy, let me paint something sad, let me paint something. And as I'm drawing this deck, I felt like I was healing. Like the first part I drew was the Three of Swords. So heavy energy, but that's what I was feeling at the time. I just felt feeling very heartbroken and sad and confused, and, like things were falling apart. And from then, as I started continuing to draw, I'm like,
it became part of you.
Like, this is what I'm being called to do. And I also it was a whole spiritual transformation. And it's so interesting because when I started my business, I was selling greeting cards. So it wasn't necessarily like spiritual products, but it's like this part of me was growing, and I was like, I have to, even though people might think it's weird, whatever, I was like, this is who I am, this is what I'm experiencing, so I have to illustrate it. And when I made the decision so I was doing my Kaleidadope greeting cards on the side, but as I started getting into decks, I'm like, this needs my full attention. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to leave, but I feel like I'm being called. And I had some cards at the time, and one of the cards was like, time to go. Like, there's no nuance with that, right? Like, and then I started having these dreams, like spirit guides and all of these things. And at the time, I'm like, who can I talk to about this? Because I'm in the engineering world. People are going to be like, you're crazy. Like, what is going on with you? You're tripping. But I have a very supportive family, and I was able to talk to them about that. And they were like, no, I feel like this is what you need to do. Like, and so once I made that decision, like, I'm going to leave my career and pursue whatever this is, it was almost like whatever lid had been on my creativity it was gone. So all the
Right.
inspiration just poured out. And that affirmations deck, Absolute Affirmations, which is my first deck that's published through Hay House, was
Uh-huh.
basically me being my own hype woman cheerleader. You can do this. Embrace the unknown. Like, you got this. You are it. Like, you have this talent. You are getting these insights. You were having these spiritual experience because this is what you're supposed to do. And I just started creating like crazy. And this is why I believe it's deeper than just me. It's something else
Yep.
going through me, because it was like all the skills that I had as an engineer. People think it's like, oh my God, it's like night and day. In some ways it is, but in some ways it isn't, because I'm producing a deck. I was in
Right.
manufacturing facilities. I know the process. I know how all of this works. I can design, I can draw. So I had all the tools and skills I needed to, and I didn't have to wait on anybody. So if I had an idea, I'm doing it. If I
Right.
inspiration, I have this dream about something, I'm creating it. I don't have to wait. I can just go. I don't have to ask for approval or, get somebody to co-sign. It's just me creating. And I just started embracing the woo, the stuff that you can't really explain or might not be tangible. And that allowed me to really help empower other people who struggle with that, because we live in a world that is very show me the data, logic. If I can't see it, it's not real. If you can't prove to me, it's BS. And
Yeah.
I'm in that space where I'm like, but even in science and all these things, there's still some things we can't explain. Look at all the things in the
Sure.
universe we're still discovering, and things are new still. And I always say it's very cocky of us to think that we deserve to understand everything, or we deserve
Ooh,
an
I love
explanation
that.
about everything. Like, that's so arrogant.
Oh, I love that. So when you say that, there's so many things I want to go back to that you talked about so many things. So first of all, I want to go to the part where you talked about engineering being so different.
Yeah.
But oracles have inherent systems.
Yes.
They are organic systems. And I think that my dad was an engineer, and he was the one that taught me how to read Turkish coffee cups. And he was an animist, right? So that I'm an animist. I believe that everything has a spirit, including a blade of grass kind of thing, right? And so, and he was an engineer, and everything made sense. So in oracle decks or tarot decks, they have a lexicon or a vocabulary that is a living system of communication. I want to go to your first deck because I loved that first deck of yours that was published by Hay House. And I didn't know you had so many other decks until I started researching you and found out how cool you were and like how great they and interesting. Oh my God, they're so interesting. So what I got from that first deck was a feeling that you created a system of symbolic gestures of support,
Yes.
right? And it was like this because all of the cards were different. Not one was the same as the other. So it was similar to a tarot. It was similar, right?
Yeah.
But it was the way in which you did it was like the cheerleader language, but it was deep.
Yes. Yes.
It was deep.
And that's
This,
one
this
thing about my work. I joke and say it's like a Trojan horse because it's pretty and colorful,
Yep,
but
but it's
there's
deep.
multiple layers of symbolism and very deep meanings. And that
Yeah.
is for me as an artist to challenge people to see beyond the surface. Like,
Yeah.
we can go as deep as we want or as shallow as we want, but don't just assume because something looks very clean and straightforward and it's aesthetically pleasing that there's nothing behind that. And that
Yeah.
goes into reading. Like, how deep can we go with the symbolism? As deep as we want to, as deep as the meaning is for me or for you or for somebody else.
That was what I loved most about your work because I'm also not a fluffy bunny oracle creator, and you did say time to go, and I did think those are my cards.
Yes. I was joking with Sierra. I was like, yeah, like I'm a fan of her work, but really I was using those cards. So I was like, a lot of these things are full circle moments, which I think
Right.
is beautiful.
Yeah, and I have to say that I'm glad you brought that up about the fact that you might see these beautiful pieces of art because you're the artist, but I think what called you, if I listened to you talk, it's intangible, right? And it is so true that there's no math to that. There's an intangible the ghost in the machine that Einstein, right? That we don't know how to measure, and it's immeasurable, but it's very there. It's tangible to the person who's experiencing it. It makes no sense to other people, right? Right. But you invite people with your work, and a whole different generation of people too, because I know my friends' daughters love your stuff, right? I mean, I love your stuff too, but I just love beautiful things too.
Yes.
But I love your stuff because it's deep.
Yes.
Because there is, even some of the language that you use is sort of like it's almost like you call the Trojan horse. I'm like, ooh, I know what she means with this. Do other people know what she means?
Yes.
And I think we need that because we lack nuance, right, in our world.
Yes. And it's so important because we're faced with so many situations that, I mean, they require nuance. They require you to think in different ways. And even as a writer, like, I don't want to dumb things down for people.
No.
If something is confusing or it might cause you to think about things in a critical way, I want you to go there. It might be uncomfortable, but you should go there and really think about, well, this isn't as straightforward as I thought it would be, but why do you feel? Like, tap into what do you feel? What do the colors make you feel? What are the words? What does that mean to you specifically? Because that is your message. Even if it might make you feel uncomfortable, that might be somewhere where you need to go.
100%. And I think that invitation that you have in all of your products, in all of your decks, is obvious in all of it. And it shows how much you love language. It shows I'm a huge fan of yours because it's what I feel is needed, because we don't ask enough questions. And I do think it's because of that whole binary idea of, black or white or this or that or you against me or, all of that. And what you're doing is you're inviting people into this bridge and saying to them, like, what does it mean to you? What are you making this mean? And I love the poetic language. I think that for me, and I don't know if you can tell me, what you feel about this too, but I love poetic language that asks me to think. That takes me on a little journey. Don't give it to me flat out. I don't, because you're just telling me what to think. Give me a winding path. What about you? Is that similar?
That's actually something that gets me excited. So sometimes I draw things. There are literally 4 or more meanings for me, just for me. And so I invite people to look at this. What do you interpret? And I joke that because when I first started painting, I thought how I would be out in the world to begin with would be my paintings. Like, my paintings are in a gallery and that's that. And I still paint and I still am putting things in galleries, but I feel like I had to go this route, not only with my spirituality, but my words. The words are powerful. And a lot of times you see something in a gallery, you see the name of it, and that's it. And with my words, I can get into those nuances and be poetic and encourage people to dig deep and dive deep. And it might be, and the words that I use sometimes, I'm like, I want somebody, if they have to look it up, do that. Look it up.
Oh my God, you're a girl after my own heart.
And the beauty of language, and I think I just, when I was an engineer, I was traveling in Europe a lot, and it just is so powerful. It's so interesting to me. I'm a nerd, but how language is so different. So we got stopped by like the police on the road, and we got to work, and somebody was like, we got arrested. And arrest literally means to stop. But I'm like, oh, in the United States, if you got arrested, it doesn't mean you got stopped. It means a whole nother thing. So I'm just a nerd with these things. Like, what do these mean to different people? And with your experience, the way a word is, it might mean something totally different to you than it is. And if you don't know that word, look it up. And how does that make you feel? Like, is there a way that you use that word in your experience that would have better illustrated what you felt?
Yeah, I think that gives your work a lot of longevity, as you can evolve with your decks. I've noticed, just for my own personal feeling when I saw the first one and just felt like, oh, wow, this thing is alive. It actually can evolve with your own personal experience. And it's always what I wanted with my decks too, is that let it grow with the person. Let them find different things in it. And not everybody's decks do that. So you managed to really, I think, give us something that will last a long time, because it's not time stamped. I
Exactly.
guess what you did, right? Does that make sense? Did you do that
That's
on
true.
purpose?
It's yes, I did. Because
Mm-hmm.
I'm just thinking like, I want to reflect, as an artist and a writer, a time, but I don't want it to be stuck in that time. So sometimes I go back in a deck and this card, I know what it means when I drew it. It's still meaningful, but in a different way. And I want people to be able to do that and use that guidebook as a reference, but be willing to shift and grow. And the theme might be the same, but how it affects you and how you experience it
Right.
can be different. And that's okay. That's the beauty of it. And so, yes, I did that on purpose because I want my work
Mm-hmm.
to stand the test of time. I believe in putting in the work to take time, like even if something takes longer to build, because that Ten of Pentacles energy, like I
Yeah.
want it to
Yeah.
go the long route. I want it to be
The
something
legacy.
that, yes, and to be something that people are like, this is valuable, like this means something to me, and it's still relevant, even if it's in a different way.
Yeah, I noticed that the careful, the careful poetry, that didn't really speak to, like, especially with pop culture right now. There's a lot of lingo,
Mhm.
that we've changed language to mean different things, and I've noticed some of the decks that are coming out, some of the newer ones are like starting to use language that I think in 5 years won't be there anymore,
Mhm.
right? And so why I love your decks and why I really encourage people to get your deck is because they will grow with you. They will be your friend for a long time and won't only speak to what's going on right now. So let's talk about your creative process,
Okay.
because I think because you do your art and the words, how long does it take? So when you get your first idea or you're calling, because I feel like decks
It
call
is.
us, I'm mine too. They knock on my door and I don't have a choice until I make
Mhm.
it.
Mhm.
Right? So do you kind of have a time frame that from start to finish?
Sometimes it flows faster. Sometimes the idea that I get, it's a little easier for me to conceptualize, do, and then produce. So, for example, I have a deck called Life is Like a Board Game Tarot. And I was talking to a friend and we were joking, and I was like, life is crazy. It's kind of like a board game. Like you pay taxes, like you buy property, and somebody's on your property, and they got like it's so funny. You pay bills, and you enter a cycle. You get a raise. You do all these things. You got to pay. You get money. Your money goes up and down. And so she was like, "Yeah, that is true. That's actually a good idea." I'm like, I could probably turn that into a deck. And then I started thinking about it, and I'm like, Monopoly is something that everybody has experienced, no matter where you're from. You're familiar with Monopoly,
Yeah,
you know how
sure.
it means. And I think if you think about life, we all experience this life experience, this human experience. That's something everybody can relate to, regardless of your background or where you grew up or everybody knows about it. And I was like, how can I turn these themes into tarot? But it wasn't forced. It just
Right.
came. I did that deck in, I want to say, 2 months. 2 months from idea to creating the vectors to thinking of the names of the cards, which were modeled after the energy of the tarot,
Uh-huh.
to designing the box to get it a production, of course, took longer,
2 months.
but creation 2 months.
What?
2 months. That's probably the fastest deck I've ever created, but it just went from idea to creation. And in the creation, I was so excited about it. I feel like I tapped back into that childlike energy of when you're playing games and
Right.
means to you. So I had fun with the naming it, but still staying true to the energy of tarot, but making it entertaining or making it very straightforward and true to where
Right.
you can't misinterpret this energy. And that's probably the fastest because it just flowed. But on average, maybe 5 to 6 months. It's not long at all. But like I said, I think it's just something flowing through me, and the fact that I have the capability to go through conception to design to illustration to production to complete all myself. I don't have to wait. So it's just like if I'm excited about
Yeah.
something, it can happen. And that's why I'm just like, it's crazy because I think about it now and I'm like, I think I was so deep in the creation process. I step back, I'm like, whoa, I did a lot. That's like
Yeah.
10 plus decks in like what, 3 years, 2 to 3 years.
That's
That's a
amazing.
lot.
Well,
Yeah.
I think the prolific and the quality of your decks too are really high. And that I was looking at going that she's got to have channeled all this, like for
Yes.
real. This girl's
Yes.
got to channel this because they're unique. They're not like anybody else's, but there is a kind of a quirky take on the structure. The structure, you kept the structure intact, but the quirky take, like you said about the board game, etc. But it's true, we're playing a game of life. And back in the medieval times when the first tarot deck was created, it was a reflection of the time back then,
Absolutely.
right? And that's what the daggers and like the being
Absolutely.
left out of the
The
church and
gauntlets and the horses. Yep. Exactly.
right. So no, you did a really beautiful job with that. So how do you decide on the artwork for your cards? Because I've noticed you have a distinct style, but they are different. So what comes to you when you want to do the
So
art?
that's strategic. I enjoy owning different decks by different people because
Yeah.
you get that variety. And if you want to use decks together, you get kind of a difference in interpretation. And, I'm an artist, so it's like it just paints a beautiful picture. If you have
Yeah.
diversity on your spread and you have these
Yeah.
different drawings and different styles. So I think of that and I was like, because I can do it all, I don't want everything to be exactly the same. I don't want people to get bored. Like, oh, it's
Right.
by Krystal Banner, it's the same old stuff. So keep that in mind. And I'm like, I want to have a style that people can say, oh, I like her style. But I was like, I want people to buy 4 of my decks and feel like they have decks by a different creator because the style is different or the approach is different or the color scheme, the way that they've designed it and planned it. So that is strategic. And I think like I'm a water sign, so I'm a Pisces. So I feel like the energy of the project and that's really what inspires.
So it's very fluid.
Yes, how it's going to look or how it's going to feel. And with that kind of inspiration and that feeling, I'm very heavily influenced by music and the songs mean something or the song makes me feel a certain way. And that's where my soundtrack oracle and Love on the Record came from because I'm like, I hear a song and I know this song means something for me right now. And somebody can hear the same song and be like, but I know that this song has meaning for me. And I created it off of that to encourage people to look for messages and what
I love that. That's called a Kaleidadope,
yeah,
but there's an actual name. Yeah, so it's an auditory innocent oracle that began in the Greek civilization. For 1400 years, the Greeks just expected to get a Kaleidadope when they asked the god Apollo for a sign. They would go into the market square and listen.
Wow.
And when they had a sense that their hearing would get, or their senses would become more acute, and they would hear a voice above the voices, right? So that's exactly what you did with that. That's built into us,
Yes.
the knowing that we could hear something.
I have that. And it's the same thing with color. Like colors to me, and the colors in my deck are very deliberate as well. So if there's a deck and there are a couple cards and you pull a couple cards that have the same shade of blue or, this orange or something, like that is deliberate. And I go into these illustrating these in a very intuitive way, but with the knowing I want this deck to feel like its own, but still feel like it's a part of the family of my style and to people to resonate.
It does feel, your decks do feel like yours, even though they're very different. You just know they're yours. You absolutely mastered that for sure, 100%. I know it's really interesting too, because I started painting I'm doing my own deck, my own art for a deck.
Oh, nice.
I moved, it's my
Is this
first
your
one.
first time?
It's my very first doing my own art. I've come out of the art closet, and I showed Hay House a few of my paintings. They were like, "You need to do this for a deck," and I'm like, "Really? That's just for me." No, anyway. So now I'm doing art, but I'm also a water sign. So I get grounded through art. So I paint. My paintings are huge. They're like I don't know, 4 feet by 3 feet or
I don't
5 feet
know.
by 4 feet. But it's that process of allowing it to tell you. And again, the colors are very distinct. Like, what is this? The color, it speaks to you. So
Yes.
hopefully, and I won't know until it comes out,
Mhm.
people will feel the same way. But I know you've done that with yours. And
Yes.
now, do you do digital art on top of the art that you paint? Because it's very distinct, your art.
So all my decks currently are digital. So I've never had a deck where I've incorporated my paintings. I've actually, I
We
put
have to
my,
do that.
yes. So I put my paintings on the side, but recently I'm actually showing my paintings in New York this weekend. But I just recently dove back into it because there's something about the tangible
Yeah.
painting and choosing those colors and
Yeah.
think being digital for a while. When I started, it was really from a standpoint of productiveness. Like, I'm like, oh, I have all these ideas, engineering brain, how can we project manage this? Okay, digital art. We can get things done faster. And before I left my engineering career, I was traveling so much. I'm like, I can't take my paint and my canvas with me on the side
No,
of
exactly.
Paris. It's not possible. But I can take this iPad and I can
And
draw.
with it, yeah.
So,
Hmm.
so my decks are all digital, but now that I'm painting more. That's
You
something
have to.
playing around with, and it's been really fun. And it's like all this sacral chakra energy is with
Hmm.
me now, where I'm just in this creative. I guess we're in Pisces season 2, but I'm just into this creativity mode and feeling really inspired right now.
Oh, I
Which
can hardly wait to see your paintings. This
yes.
is going to be so great. So let me ask, do you have any advice for a newbie deck creator? Somebody who really, because there's so many people want to do decks right now. What would be your advice to a person that's brand new, who wants to do it? What
Mhm.
would you tell them?
I would tell them to be clear on why you want to create it. Some people want to create
Hmm.
it just for them. Some people want to sell it. Some people, and I say that because defining that will determine how you move forward. So if it's just for you, you don't need to
Hmm.
worry about like, okay, so if this is to sell, I need to make sure
Right,
I pay attention to the cost because there's money
right.
involved in production and to sell this. And do I have the capabilities as an artist, or do I need to hire somebody to help me with this? So all of these things. So understanding what the intent is. And I tell people, because I was doing consultations before I got crazy busy, but I was like, understanding the intent before you move forward allows you to
Yeah.
save time, money, all of these things. And it's okay if you're just creating it for you to test it out and have your own. But when you make that decision, you could be a little more flexible on how you approach art and how you approach the timing of it all. And when do you want to release it? In addition, trust yourself, allow yourself to flow. I think when people get in their head like, oh my god, I have to do this, so because have people telling me like, I have this idea for an oracle deck, I can't draw. I'm like, that's okay. That's
Yeah,
not
you'll
a
find
barrier.
somebody.
That's not a barrier. You just have to find somebody and make sure that they understand your vision, and make sure that you feel comfortable with that. Because one of the things that I try to coach people in, and it's something that I understand, but personally I don't deal with because I draw my own things. You have to really have somebody that understands the vision. I don't have to explain to somebody what
To
I see.
yourself, right?
I can just tell myself. It's in my head.
Yeah,
When you're working with somebody else, when you explain it and when you see how they interpret it, you have to be comfortable with that. And that's a process. So, and you want it to reflect your vision and your feeling, because the deck is all about that, like the meaning, and the art is, and the thing about divination that people I think forget or don't realize, the art is so powerful in a deck.
yeah.
That's how you're interpreting and getting your messages and extracting. It's just beautiful to me because it's so powerful. People forget how powerful art is. I think in our society is very, where's the money? Where's the money? Like work, all these
Yeah.
things, the arts are like on the back burner. But I think art is such a powerful tool because it really frames our subconscious and how we view the world and what we see and all of these things. And I
It's
think that
symbolic.
was so powerful
Hmm.
about the divination is you're able to see how things can represent symbols, and how what you see, there can be things deeper. And so with new deck creators, I think really being in touch with yourself and what you want to create, have a clear vision on what you want, and be able to explain that to somebody if you have to work with somebody. But just trust yourself, because when I started out, I didn't know what I was doing, but I trusted myself. I trusted
I
myself.
didn't either.
You know what I mean? So,
I
but
did my first deck with stickers on the back of playing cards. Like stickers on the back of playing cards, because I was like, I want to make my own. And then I created this whole language that was different. It was kind of like a combination of the I Ching, runes, a bit
yeah,
of the tarot. I didn't really like it anymore. I was like, I want something different. And that became my second opinion deck. Like when I first started doing readings, like, but that's 34 years ago. So I'm a little older than you, but so, but that's how I started. And then it became Wisdom of Avalon. It actually became my very first deck,
that's amazing.
because I had the lexicon down, or like the vocabulary down,
So all
but
you have
then
to
I
do
had to
is
match it with, I transferred it. And
yep.
I know what you're saying to new deck creators too, especially if they need to find an artist. I was so lucky, because I ended up with working with the same artist I kept telling Hayhouse, no, I really want to work with the same girl again. And we became best of friends. And
Awesome.
now I'm working with another artist, because I wanted to go to a specific, painting. And now
Right.
I'm doing my own art, but I was very lucky. And you need that synergy, that spiritual synergy between you and your artist.
And I think when people get an idea, it's like, I have to rush and get this done. But I would say make sure it's done right, because that's what
Take
the
your
power is.
time.
Take your time. There's no time limit. And when I started, um, there were some days where I was drawing 4 cards a day, and some weeks where I didn't draw anything, because it's the inspiration.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very passionate about authenticity and people really identifying what works for you and what you
Yeah.
resonate with. That's where you get the power. That's where you get the truth. And I think when people use my decks, I pray and hope that they feel that, because everything is put in there with the intent of like, this is what I'm feeling. I'm putting my emotions in, and it's a very conscious process of creating. And I think that's where the energy is energy. So that's where people can feel and sense that when they use your product as well.
And I think that goes back to what you said about intent, because it's, I know you're thinking from the engineer's mind of creating and manufacturing, but I'll take the more esoteric route and say that, intent is everything. Don't copy anybody else's because you saw theirs. The
Yes.
intention is to be a channel. Like, use me, use me as a channel for thy peace, and let it be authentic to how I'm feeling. Because if I'm feeling this and I'm expressing this, then there's got to be other people that will feel that too. That's that authentic, because you can always tell when a deck is mentally created through the intellect versus like through the inspired, right? The inspiration. Let yourself be inspired like you were. And everybody will feel that from your cards.
And I'm glad
Everybody
you
will.
said that, because when I first started out, I was like, this is different. I don't know if people are going to get it. But then I was like, but that's not my problem. This is me. This is who I am. This is how I'm channeling. This is what is coming out for me and what I resonate with. This is my style. And I was like, I know it's atypical, but it's very me. And that's where I think people can find their power, even if it's different than what's out there. And I like, when I talk to people, I'm like, when I started doing what I was doing, like, it was different. Like, it was very different. And I was like, I thought that might turn people off, but that's not something I could even worry about.
Or control.
Or control.
And of
It's not my
course, it
problem.
did the opposite.
It
As we
did.
know, it did the exact
And
opposite.
I use that as an example for people. Stay true to you, even if it's
Yep.
typical, even if it's different, or you feel like it's off kilter or not mainstream, because that is what makes you you. Like, so many people
Yeah.
make decks, but nobody makes decks like you can make.
Like you, yes, or
Right.
you.
That's
Don't make it except for your way. Yeah, your way. Are you working on anything new right now?
So I have
Oh, I want to
my
hear.
Oracle deck coming out
Yes.
in October, and I'm super excited about it. It's called Signs of the Times Oracle. And what I love about this deck is I'm, in my glory of, fun and incorporating modern sensibilities, but also really pushing people to think beyond the everyday symbolism. So I incorporate different things in the deck that people see. So signs of the times, like we have these symbols that have become pop culture. Like you have the yin yang and the peace sign
Yeah.
and all of these, the evil eye. And we see these on shirts and all of these things. And I'm calling people to say, when you see that, what's going on with you? What does
Right.
that mean?
What do you think it is? Like, what does it mean to you? Because it's a lot of it's lost its meaning. It's watered down now.
Absolutely, because it's so popular. But I'm challenging people to look at these and think about the message and read that. So when you pull the card, somebody might be like, "Oh, I just saw a peace sign today on somebody's bag." So when
Right.
you pull that card, there's that synchronicity there. So what does that
Love
mean
this.
for you? What does that mean for you? And even I go as very in your face or very straightforward, like a yield sign. Are there things that you need to slow down? Maybe this
Right.
requires patience in your life right now, and you don't want to slow down, but it might benefit you to take your time with something. So when you see that yield sign, there might be something going on in your life where you could be trying to force it or press it, but there might be a need to slow
I
down.
love that.
To
And
let
you notice that too, right? When synchronicity is active or when you're in tune with it, you will pay attention to the yield sign,
Yep.
right? You'll go, I saw a yield sign twice now. I noticed it. So that means, when you're actually giving, I can hardly wait till this deck is out. I'm very excited. This is going to do so well.
It's
Okay.
so fun, and I not just fun, but I think it will really resonate with people. And we have a lot of people who are on the fence because of upbringing or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that they're experiencing things or they're scared, or so it's one of those decks that if you're kind of in the closet or like on the
Right.
fence of
It lets you come out of the closet.
or anything like that, is something that you can start with and relate to and say, I'm not making this up. There is something I'm experiencing here. I'm willing to go a little deeper because this does speak to me,
Yeah, it's an invitation.
isn't
Yeah,
it?
I'm excited about this. Wow. So I would love to pull a card with you. Do
Okay.
you have one of your decks there?
So this is from Love on the Record Oracle. So
Okay.
quick quick background. Um, I've learned so many lessons through love. And
Mm-hmm.
it's one of those things where sometimes we think about love just in a romantic sense, but it's so much deeper than that. And it really reflects on a lot of our connections, whether it's family,
Mm-hmm.
platonic, all of these things. And I want people to start thinking about like lessons we can learn from love. And I called it on the record. Clearly, it's a record, but like we're loud and proud. Like when you say something on the record, like you can quote me on this. Like this is
Yeah.
this is what
Yeah.
it is. And a lot of things that we experience, we're kind of scared to talk about in fear of being vulnerable or being too mushy or whatever, or putting ourselves out there. And that's
Sure.
one of the things where I feel like healing comes from speaking about things,
Sharing. Yeah.
sharing, and people connecting and all of those things. So just wanted to give that quick
So
back.
we'll pull the card for everybody. So the question we're going to ask is, what do we all need right now
Okay.
to make a better world?
Yes, that is a great question. Let's see. I'm gonna. Oh. So the card is falling, which represents letting yourself surrender to a honeymoon period, infatuation, and or love. So when I think of this and what's going on in the world and all of these things, allow ourselves to fall into the energy of love, which I
Yeah.
believe is a divine connection, connecting with people genuinely,
Yep.
allowing yourself to release barriers. And I think of the Rumi quote where he says, "Don't think about love in terms of like what's seeking love, but
Right.
the boundaries that are holding you back from it." And looking at those things and removing that so you can fall into a place of experiencing and connecting on the energy of love, which to me is without barriers. And it's so funny because I'm resonating with this now, is I've been working on opening my heart chakra for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Because after you go through something, there's a period of healing.
Yep.
And a lot of times we put up these barriers to protect ourselves, but they end up holding us back
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
experiencing connections, divine connections. And divine connections don't always have to be romantic. Connecting with people that, like you said, you connected with your artist, and that was that sounds like a divine connection to me.
It was. Oh, it is. And it is. We're still like, she's my soul sister.
But just think about what you've produced together, what you put out in the world together. And I feel like the world needs that, because when you drop that guard, you connect with people on a much deeper level. And what you can put out into the world from that connection, you never know what it's going to turn into. And I think about that all the time with what I've created and the people that I've connected with, because my mentor at my job was the one that was like, you should go, I believe in what you're doing. And just that, having that support and
Right.
trusting that is almost like having him say that to me. I was like, oh, so these connections with people, it might just be somebody telling you, I believe in you, do that thing.
Yeah.
Or I respect what you're doing.
And isn't it true that right now we all need to fall in love with our humanity again?
Yes.
The best parts. Because when you fall in love, you see the beauty. You don't see the person as other, right? And I think we've seen how much othering everyone has done and is still doing. And I think this card of yours invites all of us to drop those barriers
That's beautiful.
and to fall in love with our humanity and each other in a way where we don't see through that lens of separation anymore. We're willing to be hurt. It's like I'd rather be willing to give of myself and be hurt than holding myself back and seeing you over there and separating to protect myself.
Absolutely. I mean, and that analogy is perfect, especially with when you're in love, you are focusing on those things you love. Like, that nobody's perfect, but you're choosing to see those beautiful parts of that person that make you feel beautiful or that make you feel seen. So I agree.
Oh, all right. What a great conversation. For more information about Krystal Banner and all her extraordinary and beautiful creations, from cards to incense to apparel. Ooh, I got to check out your clothes. You can find her at Kaleidadope.com, and I'm going to spell that for you all. KALEIDADOPE.com. Whoa. Thank you so much, Krystal. This was great. We have to have coffee on Zoom
it was so
sometime.
much fun. Yes, of course. Of course. I'm looking forward to it.
This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
If this episode resonated with you because you're a creative visionary, artist, or entrepreneur, and you'd like to hear more episodes like this, well, let us know. You can email us at podcast@ColetteBaron-Reid.com, or you can always drop a comment on any of my social channels. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Basically, I am everywhere. So thank you so much for joining us today on Inside the Wooniverse. Until next time, I'm Colette Baron-Reid. Be well.